the retribution of cruel words across hundreds of lifetimes and the path to liberation. Hello everyone, welcome to today's in-depth interpretation. To be completely honest, the ancient story we are going to talk about today will absolutely blow your mind. Imagine this: the single, careless sentence uttered by someone can precisely determine their destiny thousands of years later, completely altering their appearance and lifestyle. This sounds a lot like science fiction, doesn't it? But it is actually a profound and shocking visualization of the workings of cause and effect and karmic energy. Alright, are you ready? Let us cut straight to the chase and look at this fascinating historical mystery. First, let us look at this extremely absurd, almost crazy picture. Near the city of Rajagriha in ancient India, there were exactly Ubika round men. Pay close attention here, they didn't wear regular clothes, instead they draped themselves in animal skins and even wore wild beast horns on their heads. But what is truly wild is this: they completely imitated the behavior of beasts, mingling with actual wild animals, crawling on the ground to drink water and eat grass. You might think, is this some kind of ancient performance art? Absolutely not. This was their actual, real-world daily life. Seeing this, the massive question mark must pop up in everyone's mind: who on earth are they? Why do they have to live a life that resembles wild beasts? This is the first core focus we are exploring today: the bizarre sight outside the city of Rajagriha. At that time, the Buddha happened to be in the city. With his profound wisdom, he knew at a single glance that the timing for these Wubai people to change their destiny had finally matured. Here, the plot takes a very clever turn. One day, these Wubai people, just like any other day, followed the herd of wild beasts toward the city of Rajagriha. To break them out of the state of living in a daze, the Buddha deliberately applied his blessing power. In an instant, he actually hid the real herd of wild beasts completely. As a result, guess what? Only these Wubai ascetics, dressed up like monsters, were left walking into the city all by themselves. You can imagine the reaction of the local people at that time, seeing such behavior that defied all common sense. Everyone immediately started pointing fingers, mocking them crazily, and even criticizing and scolding them harshly. Think about it: how could this group of ascetics endure such an overwhelming wave of social pressure? Filled with extreme shame, they could only flee Rajagriha in a state of utter wretchedness. In fact, the Buddha's strategic intervention this time was designed to push them directly out of the comfort zone they had occupied for so long. Next, the story reaches another crucial turning point: from wild beasts to an awakened mind. Just as this group of people was fleeing in panic all the way, the compassionate Buddha appeared right before their eyes. The Buddha manifested an incomparably majestic physical form and expounded the Dharma to them. Upon hearing this, these Wubai people experienced immense joy in their hearts, and in a flash, they attained an exceptionally high state of realization. After realizing the fruit, these Wubai people repeatedly begged to leave the home life and follow the Buddha. At that moment, the Buddha said a phrase to them that was filled with mystical power. Just for words, Yahi Bhikkhu come. Bhikkhu, truly. With just this one simple phrase, a miracle occurred. They instantly transformed into ordained monastics equipped with pure precepts. Subsequently, under the further guidance of the Buddha, they practiced with extreme diligence, extinguishing all afflictions at an incredible speed, directly attaining the fruit of Arhat. Talk about a massive plot twist. As the story reached this point, the other bhikkhus present were completely dumbfounded. To be honest, what they were thinking in their hearts must have been exactly the same as what we are thinking right now. Why on earth did this happen? What kind of unique past causes did these Wubai people possess that forced them to dress up as beasts and live a life that wasn't fit for humans? And why were they so fortunate to receive personal guidance from the Buddha and instantly become arhats? This grand question is about to guide us to uncover the most shocking truth today: the karmic root cause that we are going to trace next. Now comes the most exciting and interesting part of the story. We must pull the timeline back to the extremely distant past all at once to see what exactly happened at the absolute starting point of all this. Let us rewind time to the early period of the wise eon. What kind of concept was that? At that time, the human lifespan was as long as 20,000 years. Yes, 20,000 years. It was the era when Kassapa Buddha was in the world. During that age, these Wubai people were Wubai Brahmin ascetics practicing in the forest. However, just because of a minor episode that occurred next. They were forced to reincarnate as actual wild beasts for a full lifetimes across a mind-bogglingly vast stretch of time. It wasn't until this final lifetime, the era of Shakyamuni Buddha, that they finally managed to reappear in human form, becoming the group of beast-like ascetics we saw at the beginning. What exactly was this minor episode? The answer lies in a single sentence of extremely arrogant ridicule. At that time, the monastic community of Kassapa Buddha would frequently go out to wander and cultivate alms. When these Wubai, Brahmin ascetics saw these quietly begging monastics, for some reason, arrogance and contempt arose in their hearts. They casually blurted out an extremely malicious insult. They said that the disciples under the teachings of Kassapa Buddha were like wild beasts, drifting and wandering around with no fixed abode. Listen carefully. Everyone, it was this careless, casually blurted sentence of malicious criticism that directly planted an incredibly terrifying karmic seed for themselves. This serves as an exceptionally brilliant illustration of the cold and brutally precise operating mechanism of karmic cause and effect. Think about it. Back then, they spoke wildly, mocking others for being like wild beasts. And what was the ultimate retribution they received? It was literally spending Wubai lifetimes as actual wild beasts. It is meant in the most literal sense. Even in this final lifetime, when they finally managed to be born as humans, they still involuntarily draped themselves in animal skins, ate grass off the ground, and lived half like wild beasts. This punishment can be said to perfectly match 100% the cruel words they had casually spoken back then. Next, let us examine the profound lesson this story brings us regarding cause and effect, especially the mighty power of a deathbed vow. In fact, those Wubai Brahmins did eventually leave home to practice back then. However, due to the obstacle of the negative karma they had created, they achieved absolutely no results. Toward the end of their lives, in extreme remorse, they made an incredibly powerful deathbed vow. Let us carefully dismantle this intense final wish of theirs. First of all, they prayed that the retribution for their abusive language would not mature. This, of course, was impossible, which is why they still obediently spent Wubai lifetimes as wild beasts. But a more critical point is that they simultaneously made a vow they wished to perform deeds that would please the Buddha during the future era of Shakyamuni Buddha, leave the home life under his teachings, and ultimately attain the Arhat fruit. Although they could not stop the explosion of their negative karma, everyone, it was this extremely focused, super powerful wholesome intent that effectively pre-locked their final spiritual salvation. Therefore, here comes the most critical point. This actually means that they planted two completely different seeds at the same time back then. The negative seed of insulting the monastic community forced them to suffer through Wubai lifetimes of torment as wild beasts. Meanwhile, the wholesome seed of their deathbed vow awakened from a slumber spanning tens of thousands of years, maturing simultaneously alongside the negative fruit within this final, absurd life as beast ascetics. This perfectly explains why their behavior was beast-like at the beginning, yet they were able to awaken instantly upon meeting the Buddha. Wholesome and unwholesome karma actually reached such an incredible intersection within the exact same life cycle. This is precisely the dual mechanism of karma that this ancient story reveals to us. It tells us something extremely important. A single swipe of ridicule or criticism that we throw out casually and mindlessly might carry a destructive weight that is completely beyond your imagination. Yet at the same time, the purest wholesome intent and target deep within our hearts also possess a mighty power capable of crossing time and space to shape your ultimate destiny. This is exactly why we must mindfully perceive our own words and thoughts at every single moment today, because their dynamic reaction will never disappear into thin air. Coming to our summary for today, I would like to ask everyone to quiet their minds and reflect deeply on this question. The law of cause and effect is so incredibly precise. Every casual piece of ridicule and every intention hidden deep in your heart is, bit by bit, shaping your future decades or even thousands of years from now. So, what kind of seeds are the words you are speaking and the thoughts you are holding at this very moment planting for yourself? I hope this deep interpretation gives you a brand new realization regarding karmic cause and effect, and helps you find your own turning point for awakening in daily life. See you next time.